excited for today. So give me a couple more moments for people just to join in, and then we'll get going here. Okay. My name is Bryan Peterson, and I am a life coach with Achieve, Grow, Succeed Coaching. I'm a life coach with Achieve, Grow, Succeed Coaching, and I want to welcome you on behalf of Life Coach University and their Pay It Forward platform, where coaches from around the world have gathered to coach millions more. That's what their mission is. And all that we ask of you to do is to join us in paying it forward. And it starts with each one of us in our own communities, in our own homes, and ourselves. So we just want you to join us in creating the biggest ripple effect of gift giving the world has ever seen. You could pay it forward to yourself by just using the coaching that you learn on here or any of the other ones today, and use that to grow yourself and become better. You could teach that coaching to somebody else. That always helps you learn as well. You could just share the opportunity of Life Coach University with somebody, or my favorites, just give somebody a hug, make somebody laugh. All that we ask is that you join us in making this the type of world that we want to live in, which is one filled with more joy, peace, love, and meaningful connection. So I also want to give a shout out today to the Youth Educational Scholarship. That's our program where, and if any of you are on here today, congratulations. This particular one will help you in building a solid foundation for your future success. If you could just learn and understand what your mental muscles are and how to exercise them, you're going to do amazing things. I promise you that. But I want to welcome all the Youth Educational Scholarship people on here today. We're currently in a summer holiday, but we have some amazing people that participated in the program, that received the rewards. I just want to congratulate you. We're proud of you. Congratulations on putting yourself out there and actually doing it. We will be starting up again in September. And in the meantime, who is the YES for, which is Youth Educational Scholarship? Who is the YES program for? It's for 19 to 25-year-olds. It's free. It's a scholarship, but there is no application. All you have to do is email hello@lifecoachuniversity.com and say that you're interested, and they'll take it from there. They will tell you everything that you need to do. The only requirement each week, and it's so simple, the only requirement is that you just watch an hour of classes each week, or an hour class each week, and do that. So it's going to be starting up again in September, like I said. And you can check out the classes. In the meantime, you can go on there and check out the classes that they've already listed. I know that I've got a couple on there from my recordings, and there's so many other wonderful things on there as well. So congratulations. If you are in the Youth Educational Scholarship, we're super excited to have you on board with us. Okay, that being said, my name is Bryan Peterson. Once again, I am a life coach with Achieve, Grow, Succeed Coaching, where I help people create empowering new lives for themselves. We uninstall their old limiting beliefs, and we install what I call a success system of thinking instead, so that they can create success in their lives where they were currently struggling. So before I dive into today's topic, I also want to share that if throughout this, I talk fast and I tend to ramble on sometimes. But if you have any questions, just there's a Q&A box on there. Just feel free to put the question in the Q&A box. And as soon as I see it and I get to a good stopping point, I will go ahead and answer that for you. I am planning on stopping at several times during this to see if anybody has any questions. So you'll have ample time to answer them if I can. Hopefully I can, right? So anyway, let's dive in. What are our mental muscles and how do we exercise them? This is part 2. I did part 1 last month, where I introduced the foundational mental muscles. If you want to go back and check that one out, you can go to lifecoachuniversity.com and click on replays. Um, it will be for Bryan Peterson. I believe it was titled, What Are Your Mental Muscles and How to Exercise Them, Part 1. It is not essential that you have watched that to get anything out of today's teachings, but it will definitely help you. I list those as the foundational muscles just because they're the first ones that people can exercise that will give them a really strong base. But what I'm about to teach you today is just going to be just as phenomenal, and you can get plenty out of it too. Okay, so what are our mental muscles? That'll be the first section. Why is it important? And then this month's mental muscles and how to exercise them. Those are going to be the 3 different sections we're going to be covering today. So what are our mental muscles? We all know what the physical muscles are for, right? If you go out there and ask anybody, and I do this all the time, when I hear people say, yeah, I'm working on getting healthier. I need to get healthier. And I say, oh, what are you planning on doing? And they will tell me either both or one of these things. Oh, I want to start eating better and I want to start exercising. Eating better we get, right? You could probably just stop the junk food and just start cooking some food for yourself, and you could probably do better right there. But what about exercising? Like most people, when we think of exercising, what do you think of? Like I think of going to the gym, or maybe you've got a workout machine at home. I've got an exercise bike that I'm getting ready to get on after this. But we think of our physical muscles, right? We think of like our biceps or our triceps. Don't get mad at me if I've got those wrong anyway. But we just think of our physical muscles, and we know how to exercise them. We just lift something that's a little bit heavier, or we get on the treadmill, or we go out for a run, or we go out for a bike ride, or we go hiking, we do yoga, stretching. We know how to do all of those things. But when it comes to your mental muscles, I noticed that there wasn't a lot of information out there. In fact, if you Google or if you look up mental muscles on the internet, it's going to say things like determination and discipline and confidence and goal setting. Like goal setting was on there. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, that's great. Those things are great, but how do I build those up? And if you look them up, most of the time they'll tell you why they're important and what the benefits of them are. But most of them really don't teach you how to build up your discipline or your goal setting. And so when I was doing my own research and developing my own personal development journey, I started digging into that and was like, what are the things? And so the way I will phrase mental muscles is it's the mental things that you do that we do daily to keep our minds healthy, right? Or not, right? Because some of the things that we're doing mentally is probably not healthy for us. But I also like people, I like my clients and people that I talk to when I'm telling them about this. I want you to think of, it's like going to a gym for your mind. Jim Quick, who's a motivational speaker out there, and he talks a lot about your mental capabilities and stuff like that. He had a t-shirt and it had this brain on it. And it was like a caricature of a brain, and this brain was sitting here and it was all muscled out. And so I started to think, how can I exercise? How can I get those mental muscles better? Because when it comes to doing any of these other things, like even staying physically fit, or when it comes to discipline, or when it comes to confidence, there's things that we need to exercise mentally. And we need to do it. If you don't exercise those things, just like if you don't exercise your own muscles, they start to atrophy. If you put a cast on your arm after a month or two, you take it off, all your muscles on that one side will be much smaller than the ones over here. So the same thing's happening in your brain. And so I gleaned from the hundreds and hundreds of books that I read and my research and seminars and conferences and the things that I've been to, the different things that we can exercise to keep our mental strength, so to speak, so that we can follow through and we can do the things and we can carry out the things that we want to do to achieve the things that we're looking to achieve. And I promise you this, that exercising these mental muscles has a direct impact on your fulfillment in life, because it's not all centered on achieving something like the if-then statement. If I lose 10 pounds, then I'll be happy, so to speak. This is a continuum. This is just an ongoing process that we do every day. And just like any other physical muscle that you can exercise, you can overdo it as well. So I've broken them down into these, it's probably going to be a 6-part series. We're on part 2 right now, where I'll be teaching them. So you don't have to go down this list of mental muscles and say, oh, I need to exercise this today, right? We're just going to take them piece by piece. I will share with you the last month, the ones that I shared were the awareness muscle. I think that that's the foundational muscle of them all. You have to be aware in order to do anything. There's the promise muscle, which helps build your confidence, by the way. So if you want to know how to build confidence, you can go back and watch that video and I'll teach you how to keep the promises to yourself. There was also self-compassion, celebration, and evaluation, because unless we learn how to evaluate and mentally go through everything that we just did, we'll never learn from it and move on. So that's one of the muscles as well. So I'm going to quickly go through what the mental muscles are today, and then I want to tell you why they're important, or why exercising your mental muscles is important, okay? So this month, or for this class, we're going to go over acceptance, gratitude, letting go or forgiveness in there, and then filling your cup, and the emotional IQ muscle. But why do we need to exercise our mental muscles? Like, why do we got to do it in the first place? Anybody have any questions up until this point? I know I haven't dove into anything, but I just want to ask. Okay, I don't see anything. So why is it important? I tell people it's important because 95% of what we do every day is on autopilot. And what do I mean by that? From the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to bed, you get out of bed, you get dressed the same way, you brush your teeth the same way, you take a shower, you clean yourself off in the shower the same way, you dry yourself off when you get out the same way. You just do all these things the same way. You drive the same way to work. Think about how you're cutting up your breakfast. If you're cutting something up, you use the fork and the knife the same way. You do all those things. And they're on autopilot. What do I mean by the autopilot again? Is like, how many times have you driven somewhere that you've driven a lot, and by the time you get there, like say if you're going to the grocery store and you drive all the way there and you notice yourself parking in the parking spot, and after you park, you're like, oh my God, I don't remember the last 2 minutes of that drive, or I don't remember part of that drive. It's because your brain went on autopilot. Your brain is wanting to conserve energy. That's one of the things it does to survive. It just wants to survive, and it does that by conserving energy. And so it automatically knows that you're going to turn here at this light and do this, whether you notice street signs, or maybe it's like turn right at the Burger King or whatever, but that's what it does. And so then it allows it to just kind of go into rest mode. And just like your physical behaviors are on autopilot, so are your mental ones as well, the way you think about things. Like when you encounter a challenge or an obstacle, does your brain automatically come up with an excuse, or does it find a solution? These things are automatic. And I call this 95% of our day, I call that our default way of thinking, or our default system. And I also want to explain the behavioral loop and how it ties into that, because part of that behavioral loop is going to affect it as well. And unless we can get inside of how we behave, we're just going to be at the mercy of our default ways of thinking and doing things, right? So how does our behavioral loop work? How does our behavioral cycle work? It's really super simple to understand. Our circumstances or environment, or the things that are going on around us, maybe you're having a conversation with somebody and they say something, or you see something or whatever, but all of those come into your 6 senses. And I say the 6th sense being like intuition, but this includes sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, right? All these things are coming in at us. And then when they get sent into your brain, I'm not going to go into all the super details of it, but all of those senses come in and it creates a thought. We have thoughts about it, right? It goes to your prefrontal cortex amongst other areas, and then we just start thinking about it. And so if you were just to look around and see stuff, like I could look over here and I could see the bookcase right there. And just that visual perception of it with that circumstance or my environment, I have some immediate thoughts. It could be, wow, I need to clean and tidy that up. That might be one of the thoughts. Another thought might be, oh, it's really nice. My wife's father made that. He handmade that. And so I have a bunch of thoughts. And so from those thoughts, our thoughts are then turned into emotions. So as soon as we think about something, there's an emotion attached to us, and it sends this chemical reaction throughout our body in the form of an emotion. So a different way or an easier way of understanding this might be, I might look at my to-do list and think to myself, oh my God, my thought is, oh my God, I've got way too much to do. I don't have enough time to do it. And so what feeling does that create in my body? That might create overwhelm. It might create anxiety. It might create excitement, just depending on who you are. But your emotions, the root word of emotion is to move. And so your emotions are designed to get you to take action. So the next part in the behavioral loop is action. And we all know, or we've all been taught, that our actions create results. So this is how it looks. Again, a quick recap. Our circumstances, our environment, or everything that's going around on us or around us creates a thought in our head. And then that thought creates an emotion. That emotion then causes us to take some sort of action, which then creates a result. And why is this important? Because our mental state is determining our results. Because if you go past or back up above action is emotion, and above emotion is thought. So it's really our thoughts. It's really what we're thinking that's driving our results. So that's why it's important that we exercise our mental muscles, that we can get inside of that behavioral loop, and we can take responsibility for it, and we can guide it, and we can move it in the direction that we want, instead of that default system. Like I told you, that 95% of our day is on autopilot. So instead of being on autopilot all the time, we could tap into this behavioral loop, and we can start doing the things that we want to do instead, right? So that's why it's important. That's why we dive into it, and we want to do it, because in order to change our results, we have to start working on our thinking. And so the way I look at it is, if your thoughts are creating your results, we need to work on a success system of thinking, as I like to refer to it as. And in order to do that, we have to have stronger mental muscles. And so the more you exercise your mental muscles, the stronger they get, the more you're able to tap into that loop, because it is such a powerful loop. I'm telling you, like, the next time you go, you want to see how powerful it is. The next time you go to brush your teeth, like, do it with your non-dominant hand. It took me like 6 months to work on brushing my teeth with my left hand, and I'm still uncomfortable with it. It still doesn't seem like natural to me, because I've been doing it with my right hand all my life. But that's how dominant it is. It just wants to take you back to it. Like, as soon as you reach in, my toothpaste is in the drawer. And so my habit is, I go in there and I pull out the drawer, grab the floss, grab the tooth. It's just a habit. So we want to tap into that. Okay. Any questions when it comes to that, when it comes to the behavioral loop, or why we're on autopilot, or why it's important that we exercise our mental muscles? Okay. Hang on one second. Okay, so let's go into today's muscles then. Today we're going to be talking about acceptance, gratitude, letting go, filling your cup, and emotional IQ. And I love these ones. I call acceptance, gratitude, and letting go, I call them the big three, because they're really, really important. Why do I call these muscles? Because we need to exercise them. In order for us to move forward in life, we have to get past where we're at right now. And if we have any resistance, if we have any negative thoughts or resentment or anything like that about our current situation, then we're not going to move forward. We have to let go of that. I always like to explain it to people Like, have you ever pictured a runner and their coach? They have that big resistance band, and it's stretched around the runner, and the runner's trying to run forward, and the coach is like pulling him back. Well, that's like where we're at if we're not accepting, letting go, and finding the gratitude in things. We're the ones that are holding that resistance band and holding ourselves back because we're refusing to let go of our anger or our resentment or our apathy or whatever it is for the situation at hand. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're living in an apartment complex, and the upstairs neighbors and the downstairs neighbors are super trashy, they're noisy and stuff like that. But what you really want to do is you really want to buy your own place and do that. But all you can think about, you can't focus on any of the stuff that's required to get your own place and do what it takes to buy your own house if you're caught up in the feeling of, I hate where I'm at, I can't stand it, I hate these people, and all the emotions that are attached to that. Because remember, the behavioral loop, all those feelings are going to drive your actions, and all your actions are going to be doing is going to be responding or reacting to the situation that's going on. So the first one that we're going to cover today is acceptance. Like, we need to just begin to start accepting the way things are at. Let's say if you're in the youth educational scholarship and you're going to school, it could be you need to accept the grades that you're at. It could be you need to accept the living environment that you're at. It could be accepting that some people learn faster than you. Whatever it is that you need to accept, you need to work on that. And once we can accept that and let it be as it is, then we can move forward. So some of the ways in which we could find out if we're accepting or not is, well, actually, okay, so the first step in acceptance is just acknowledging them first. So just acknowledging our circumstances. Like, I'm living in a duplex right now, which is one of the stages of our real estate development my wife and I are doing. But I'm living in like 800 square feet on this side, and it's not where I want to be, but I'm accepting it. It's like I find the gratitude in, I find everything that's nice about it. We get to live close to my mother-in-law and make sure that she's taken care of. So there's so many things that I can acknowledge and just say it is what it is. This is what I've got: one bathroom. You know, I've got 800 square feet. I've got a tiny kitchen. I can just accept those things. But step two is this: we just need to take responsibility. What role did I play in this? What role did I do, or what things did I do that brought me to this situation? And then once you understand that you're responsible for it, you also understand that you're responsible for getting yourself either out of it or to the next level. It just depends on what it is. Not everything is wanting to get out of something, right? So that's what we're doing with the acceptance. One way that you know that you're not accepting it is if you feel like resistance or resentment or anger or frustration. And I'm not saying you don't have to feel these things. We're going to get to the emotional IQ muscle here in just a bit, and it will teach you how to process or learn from that. But you just need to be aware that that's what you're feeling. And that's the reason why awareness was in the foundational one, by the way, is because you have to be aware of it, right? The next thing you want to do is you don't want to avoid it. Don't avoid your circumstances, because everything that you avoid comes back even stronger, right? So it's like anxiety. It's like sitting there with anxiety and knowing you need to be studying for a test or knowing you need to be doing something for work, but it makes you anxious or you're overwhelmed. And so you sit there and you scroll through Facebook all day, or you watch Netflix and stuff like that. The anxiety goes away. You avoided it. But then after you stop doing whatever you're doing, it comes back, and it comes back with a vengeance. I like to say it's like it grows in power. Right? So am I resisting it? Am I attached to the outcome of whatever it is I'm doing? These are ways that you know that you're not accepting of it. And another way to practice your acceptance is practice curiosity. Like, just get curious about what's going on, what's in your circumstances, and then be curious on how you're judging yourself. So you don't want to judge yourself or identify with your circumstances. And what do I mean by identify with your circumstances? Like if the circumstances happen to be like if you're in school and you failed a couple tests, identifying with it would be like, I'm a failure, as opposed to I failed a couple tests. Identifying with something is saying, I am this, I am that, I'm not good enough to afford a better house or whatever it is, right? So these are the ways that we can exercise acceptance. And then once we start to accept, this is why I call them the big three, because they all work hand in hand. You could use gratitude. You could find the gratitude in your circumstances, and that will help you accept it. So we're going to move on to gratitude. Any questions? I tend to talk and ramble on, so don't feel bad if you got a question. Oh, looks like we got a question. Hang on one second. Move this over here. I have an assignment due. I had a month to do it, but now I only have 2 weeks to do it. I'm procrastinating so badly. That's so funny because I'm getting ready to do a master class on this exact thing, and this is so interesting. Yeah, I get it. I get it. And part of it is that now that you've procrastinated on it or avoided it, that anxiety and the overwhelm and the feelings have kind of exacerbated at this point. And we actually get emotionally hijack ourselves to where that emotion is the one that takes over and stuff like that. But it will go back to your thoughts about the whole thing. Like if you think that you don't have enough time to do it, that's going to cause you to overwhelm. But if you accept where you're at right now, this is where I'm at. I've got 2 weeks. What can I do in 2 weeks? How can I structure this and break it down into small chunks? If you accept where you're at and you use these things that I'm about to teach you, you're going to be able to move forward with that. So thank you for sharing that, whoever shared that. So back to gratitude. So practicing gratitude is what's going to give you the energy, like I like to say that gratitude is just like this emotional energy that allows us to step past and step through some of these other emotions that are really kind of holding us back. So maybe it's the anxiety that you're procrastinating so badly. If you can find the gratitude in where you're at, that's going to give you a sense of peace and some of that energy that it's going to allow you to move forward. So when I talk about gratitude, I'm not talking about thank you for this meal that's in front of me, thank you for the roof over my head, and some of those natural things that we do. I'm talking about real gratitude where you get the feeling for it. So how do we practice the gratitude? Is some of the different ways is you could do a gratitude journal where every day you start writing down and you get yourself in a habit of finding the things you're grateful for. And what that'll do is that'll train your brain. Say you're in a situation where you have skipped an assignment for a while. If you've been practicing the gratitude, it's training your brain to think of all the things that are going good in your life instead of what this situation might be causing you to do, which is thinking of all the negative things, right? So another thing you can do to practice gratitude is you can create a thankful jar. So every time, like this is one of my favorite things that once a week, my wife, her mom comes over for dinner since she lives right next door. And we sit down, and after we have dinner on Sunday, is we all write on a little Post-it, a colored Post-it thing. We just write something that we're grateful for, something that's good, that's going on in our lives. And there's several, we can list several things if we want. We all read them out loud, and then we fold them up and we put them in this big bucket, which has got this giant sunflower in it. But at the end of the year for New Year's Eve, what we do is we sit down, and as we're celebrating, part of what we do is we spend an hour or whatever just reading all these things so that we see what kind of a beautiful year that we had. Because sometimes, like, you'll get through the whole year and you'll think, God, that was a crappy year, you know, especially this last couple of years, right? but now we get to see the beauty in it, and we get to see all the things and all of our growth and all the fun things that we did. So that's one of the ways you could do it. I tell people to go deep. So instead of like, oh, thank you for this meal in front of me, go deep and ask yourself what had to happen in order for that to be there in the first place. Like what happened, what had to happen for that chicken to be on your plate? Like who had to develop the processing plant? Who had to develop the fertilizer and the feed that had to go into that? Who had to develop, all this stuff? Who had to who developed or who created the supermarkets and that idea? And all this stuff had to come together for you to have this meal on your plate, right? So you go deeper in it. And one way to go deeper in it is to start listing off 25 things that you're grateful for. And I promise you this, that you might get past the first 10 or so, like, oh, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for the heat, I'm grateful for this energy drink that I've got in front of me or whatever. But after you get to 10, you're going to be like, oh. But that makes you slow down and think of the things that you're truly grateful for. And there's all kinds of other ways too that you can exercise. And I'm just giving you some brief explanations in here just for today. But you could look for the gift or the silver lining in your current circumstances or challenges. Like what's good about this right now? Like how is where I'm at right now a perfect 10? Why is it a perfect 10? Because it's going to get your mind to see all the good things that are going on about it. But you can also see this challenge or whatever's going on in your life, like your assignment or whatever. There's a gift inside that. Maybe it's, I could get ahead on my next one, or maybe it's that there was a lesson that I need to learn. So if you can glean that from it and find that from it, that's also going to empower you. And once you have gratitude for the situation and you've accepted where you're at, we can move on to the third one of the big three, which is letting go. And this is actually letting go of the resistance or the resentment or that feeling that's in our body. Letting go is an action of the mind. It's not something that we just, oh, I let go of it and I drop it, right? It just doesn't happen that way. It's a little bit more, it's along the lines of forgiveness and that type of thing. Let's see, I've got another question here. Hang on just a moment. Hang on. It says, in high school, I did really well. First year uni, I didn't do so well. I'm not looking forward to going back in September. When I do my gratitude list, I start to feel very guilty. I'm grateful that my parents can pay for uni, but I'm struggling with the grades that I want. That's okay. So just like struggling with the grades that I want, there's an attachment to that result. And I'm getting ready to talk a little bit about that right now, but it's one of the old if-then statements. If I get good grades, then I'll be happy. There's an attachment there. If I put in a better effort or whatever, that's more like it, right? Then I can get more fulfillment knowing that I did my best. But my guess is that there's something inside there that you haven't done or that you didn't do that you're feeling guilty for. Guilty, and just for all of you out there, the difference between guilt and shame is there's something wrong with me personally. Guilt is I did something wrong. So when you do your gratitude list, you're starting to feel guilty. It's because you don't think that you're doing the right things or enough things on there. And so go back and watch the replay of the first one I did, because it's going to talk a lot about promises, keeping promises to yourself, and self-compassion, and the way we talk to ourselves, that conversation that we have with ourselves. Are we berating ourselves? Are we mean to ourselves? So one of the ways that you can move through this is accepting, hey, this is where I'm at. I got these grades last time. This is what I've already done. I don't need to dwell on it. I can accept that. I can find the gratitude of what are the lessons that I learned. What did I learn? I can learn what not to do, and I can learn what to do. And then how can I let go of my attachment to the results that I didn't get? And then that's going to allow you to move forward. So thank you. I appreciate that. Whoever shared that, thank you very much. So now where was I? Yeah, so just like I was talking about there, it's letting go of the attachment to the result, but not the desire for it. And this one confused me for a while. Like I was like, how do you let go of your attachment to the result? Does that mean you just don't care about it anymore? It's not that I didn't care about things like getting my coaching business going or getting past our bankruptcy or any of these things. Yeah, I had this deep down desire for it. I was just using that if then statement to control whether I was happy or not, or whether I got excited or not, or whether I got to celebrate. If I did this, then I'll be happy. And once I let go of that, like it didn't matter if I did this or not, I knew that I could accept whatever results that I got. And if I truly accepted them, found the gratitude and let go, that allowed me to move forward. And if you go watch the replay of last month's, I teach the evaluation muscle in there too, which teaches you how to evaluate the circumstances and evaluate what you just did in order for you to take the next step. And so that's a good one too. But another way you can practice letting go is practice not being perfect. We want to be perfect in everything that we do. A lot of times it keeps us from even trying something or doing something in the first place. And I have a distinct feeling that that assignment that you had due, you had a month to do it, inside of your mind is like, how do I do it? It's got to be perfect. It's got to be right. It's got to be the best. It's got to be whatever. Well, chances are, if you just start writing, if you just start doing some of it, you're going to get what I call take the garbage out first. You're going to get some of the trash out, some of the stuff that doesn't work right away. You're going to get that out first, and you're going to know where you stand. So you can practice not being perfect, and that helps you let go. Especially if you found the gratitude in for where you're at and you've accepted it, you can also practice that feeling or practice feeling the actual resistance in your body. And then you can practice it letting it go. I'm going to go deeper into that when I get to the emotional IQ muscle here in just a sec. But it's basically, where's the resistance at? And then I could just, when you find that true acceptance for it, it almost like it dissipates. It goes around. You're not pushing it down. You're not suppressing. You're not avoiding it. You're just practicing letting go of the attachment to it. And you can also practice, this is another one that it's going to go a little bit deeper, but there's a story you're telling yourself. Like in both of these stories that these people shared, there's a story of I'm not good enough. And if I'm not good enough, then I'm not going to succeed like I want. So there's this giant story. If we put all your limiting beliefs together and you start to pile them together, it starts to tell a story about yourself. And then that's what we get caught up into. So you can practice listening to the story you're telling yourself and then challenging that story and reframing it. This is also going to be another muscle that I teach down the road. I call it storytelling. But what's the story you're telling yourself about the situation? Like, am I, one of mine was like, I'm just not good enough to do this type of business, this coaching business early on when I was struggling with it and stuff. I just tell myself I just wasn't good enough. I heard that, and it stemmed all the way back from when I was younger. But I had this story that if I wasn't good enough, that I'm never going to succeed at doing it. If I don't succeed at doing it, then I'm not going to make a lot of money. And if I don't make a lot of money, I'm getting a little bit later on in life, so that I'm not going to be able to retire and live the life that I want. It was this big, giant story. And so once I tapped into it, I was able to say, well, is this true? Is this story true? No, it's not true. Is it instead of even asking is it true, is the story true? A better question, does this story serve me? Does it benefit me to think this way? And if the answer is no, which most of the time it's not, if you're not getting what you want, then you could say, what is a different story? And that's after you challenge the story, then you can reframe it. And then you can say, what's a better story that I could tell? A better story would be like, yeah, I didn't know what to expect my first year at uni. And so I didn't do so well. But now, this is reframing the story. Well, now I know what to expect, or I know more of what to expect. I can prepare better for it. I can position myself better to start. I'm not starting at the very beginning anymore. I'm starting right here. And I can learn as I go. I could learn how to evaluate. I could learn how to do these things better. So that's one of my favorite ones. Instead of thinking I'm not good enough, is I can always learn how to do it. I might fail a few times, but I'm always failing forward. I'm always starting at the point that I failed at last time, and I'm moving forward. So those are the ways that we can practice letting go. I've got another question here. So this morning I had to do something and really didn't want to. I remember what you suggested, to eat the frog in the morning. That got me motivated to do it. Do you have anything else that could help get instant motivation in the moment? Okay, so this person is referring to another class that I had on here where it teaches you to eat the frog, where it teaches you to do the hardest thing or the most resistant thing that you've got on your to-do list in the morning. And once you do that, after you've done that hard thing, everything else is easy, which is a great way to start your day. Once you, the saying was, in Europe, they had the saying that if you ate a frog in the morning, that was the worst thing you could do all day. So the rest of your day was just going to be beautiful. And so doing the most unwanted thing on your to-do list first kind of helps you think, okay, well, now I got that out of the way. The rest of it is easy, right? So do you have anything else that could get instant motivation in the moment? I would hesitate on this. Like, we think that we need to be motivated to do something, and it works the exact opposite way. Like, motivation and willpower are not infinite, they're finite. We use those resources. So as we go throughout the day, we kind of use them up. And then there's some days where we just don't have them at all. I would offer you this. It's the emotion comes after the actual motion. So after we actually do something, then we're going to feel motivated. It's only after you start working on, whoever has that assignment that's due, it's only after you start working on it that you're going to feel a little bit of relief, and you're going to feel better. And as you start to do it, you're going to feel more confident. But you have to start first. So the motivation actually comes after. After you start doing it, you start typing and you start doing it, and be like, wow, I could have done this, whatever. And then that's what it starts. It's getting that inertia to get off the couch, right? 90% of the fuel that a rocket spends going into space is just getting off the ground. And so 90% of what we have to do is just get ourselves off the couch. So we just have to start. What I would say for this is just start with the tiniest thing that you could possibly do. Whatever your next thing that you have to do, what's the smallest step you can take? If it's an assignment, maybe you have to get on the computer. So turn on the computer would be the first step. And so you just turn on the computer, and then you pull up whatever document, and then you start from there. But that little bit of motion is going to get you off the couch and moving. I hope that helped. Okay, so filling your cup. This is another one that's just going to give you energy to also help with this, and it could help with the motivation, right? So what do I mean by filling your cup? It's there's an old saying that if you bump into somebody and they've got a cup full of tea, what do they spill? They spill tea. If that cup was filled with coffee, they would spill coffee. If it was filled with juice, they would spill juice, but you get the idea. But the true meaning behind it was, if you're filled with anger and somebody bumps into you, you're going to spew anger. So if you're filled with resentment and you're filled with anger, frustration, and all these things, that's what's going to emit out of you. So there's two ways that we fill our cup. One is it emptying it out of all of the negativity and filling it up with the positive stuff, right? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody where after you got done with the conversation, you're like, oh my God, that sucked the life out of me. Like, it just pulled all the energy out of you. Well, we need to fill our cup. We need to get that energy back in. Part of it is the two steps, like I just said, dumping out the cup of the negative energy, but also knowing situations where your energy is going to be pulled out of you and being prepared for that. But ways of filling your cup, there are things that you do that after you do them, like, you're uplifted. I know that after I'm done with this, I'm going to be super excited. I'm going to be super pumped up because I love teaching and I love doing these things. So I get super excited. So coaching with my clients gets me excited. That fills my cup. Some of the other ways that you can fill your cup could be reading. It could be listening to music, like, your jam when you're jamming with your stuff and you just start getting to the whatever. For some people, it's getting outdoors, like walking, hiking, running, swimming. That might be one way to fill your cup. I know that this is one of my favorite ones. You could spend some quality time with your pets, like just sitting down, petting your cat. For me, just sitting with my cat and feeling it purr and petting it, that fills me up. It lightens my mood, right? You could call or text somebody and have a conversation with a loved one. I know one of my clients, anytime she's a little bit older and so her children are gone out of the house, one of the ways that she fills her cup is she calls up her kids and just has a conversation with them, and that gives her some energy. You could also play a game that you like to enjoy. I like to play a puzzle game on the iPad. I love finishing it. I love solving it. There's something about doing that just uplifts me. And the final way that I'm going to share with you today to fill your cup is ask for help if you need it. Like, this could be a game changer for you. All of you in these situations, you can ask for help. Like, we think that we're the only ones going through this situation, but the truth is that we're all going through the same or similar types of things. Everybody procrastinates. I did a whole nother thing on why we procrastinate and how we get emotionally hijacked from it. We all go through, every successful person out there has had tons of failures. Like, we all go through this stuff. But the difference is they either ask for help or they figured out a way to get help from somebody else. So ask for help. Share your challenge with somebody. Like, when it comes to shame, I was just reading a book that said that shame doesn't like it when you share it. So in other words, if you keep your shame bottled up, it just grows and grows and it magnifies. But if you were to share that with somebody else, shame loses its power. It loses its strength. All of its strength lies in you being isolated and keeping it to yourself. So that's another way that you can fill your cup. My favorite one, I saved this one for last. It is the emotional IQ muscle. This muscle alone, if you could just learn, just look up, Google emotional IQ. Like, this is, to me, this is more important than your actual IQ itself. Like, your emotional intelligence is way more important than what the test deemed your intelligence to be, because our parents, our grandparents, their parents, and everybody else did not know how to process their emotions. They did not know how to deal with them. So they either suppressed them, repressed them, or avoided them. And then look what happened, right? When we avoid things, they come back with a vengeance. And so that's why we're stuck. We don't know how to process boredom. Yes, boredom's an emotion. Like, that's why you may think of it as a little bit like anxiety. No, chances are you're just bored, right? So emotional IQ is, I'm going to simplify it here. It goes into deeper with this, but it's your relationship with your emotions and how you let them dictate your actions, how they show up in your relationships and stuff like that. So one of the ways that I share with people, like, it's the biggest way, and this could help you with your motivation moment. This could help you with your procrastination moment, the first person on here, and this could help you with going back to the university for year number 2, as I teach my clients, and this is probably not going to be the answer that you want to hear, but practice sitting with your emotions and not judging yourself, not doing anything. Remember that behavioral loop that I talked about? Your emotions are designed to get you to move, and they're designed to me, they're sending you a message, right? It's just that we don't take the time to decipher what that message is. Like, what is fear? Why am I afraid of whatever it is? And stuff like that. So sit with your emotions, right? And what does sitting with it look like? It's like, you can meditate. And another thing about meditation that a lot of people say, I can't meditate. My thoughts just go whatever. That's what meditation is. It's just sitting there and listening to your thoughts, right? But some of these things that I'm going to share with you are going to help with that, okay? But when you're sitting with your emotions, I've got a bunch of questions that you can ask yourself that are designed to allow you to get curious about it and allow you to understand your emotions a little bit better. But I got a question here. Hang on a second. Is it really healthy to have a relationship with my anger? Sometimes it feels overwhelming and scary. Yes, yes, it's important. It's important to, what's your anger trying to tell you, right? Like all of our emotions are designed they're giving us a message. So anger, I learned this a long time ago. All anger is that something has gone on that has broken your boundaries or your rules. Okay, and I'll give you a real simple example is that every time somebody would cut us off in traffic, my wife would just get pissed. And a few bleep, bleep, you bleep, bleep, you know, whatever like that, because one of her rules was it's just not cool to cut somebody off in traffic. It's dangerous, you know, whatever like that. So all we have to do is examine our rules and our boundaries when it comes to anger. So yes, have a relationship with your anger. In fact, I'm going to share something else with you here in a little bit that's going to help even more with that. Oh, that's exciting. Thank you for sharing that. So when you're sitting with your emotions, when you're just practicing them, just ask yourself some simple questions. Where is it at in my body? Like, where am I feeling? Is it in my chest? Is it in my stomach? Is it in my head? Is it in my shoulders? Is it in my arms or legs? And then what does it feel like, right? Is it rough or is it smooth? Is it tight, like gripping tight? Is it fast? Is it slow? Like, what color is it? And I like this one too. What's its name? Like, if you were to give that emotion a name, like I give my names like, oh, thanks, doom and gloom, or compare and despair. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, oh, it's compare and despair again. What do they have to say? Oh, they're telling me I'm not good enough. Oh, I appreciate that, right? And so, yeah, is it constant or does it come and go? So you just get curious about it, right? What does it make you want to do? Like anxiety hides within our habits. So anytime we feel anxiety, we do certain things. Some people exercise, some people drink too much, some people overeat, some people binge watch Netflix. What does that emotion make you want to do? And just take notice of that, right? And then the more you could sit with this, put a timer on and do it start off with just a minute and then move it to 5 minutes and then move it to 10 and then to 15. And the longer you could sit with that, you're going to realize that that emotion is not controlling you. It's just our thoughts. It always goes back to our thoughts. We just keep rethinking the same story and the same thoughts, and then that emotion just comes back. It only takes, I think, like 60 to 90 seconds for the actual chemical emotion to pass through your body. So what keeps it there is we just keep thinking the same stuff. Another way to exercise your emotional IQ is to show compassion for others. I remember when, just a synopsis on me, I spent 35 or 30 plus years in the restaurant industry. I abused a lot of alcohol and drugs. And so after I got past that part of my life, I found that I wasn't really that emotional. I had numbed myself to a lot of that stuff. And so I wanted to experience love and some of these emotions again, but I had to find compassion. So I had to start showing people compassion in order for me to feel the actual compassion. So I would just practice showing compassion for my cat because I just didn't know how to do it. But I remember when my cat was sick, it brought emotions out of me and I was able to practice that. So I was able to show compassion is another way you can exercise it. And I know we're running out of time here, but you could take note of the language you use when you talk to yourself or when you're talking to others. So when you're that relationship, when you're angry, what are you saying? What are you saying to yourself? Like, you're not good enough, or what is it? Like you can examine that, because a lot of what that conversation with ourselves is just this negative. It's like the mean guy over here and the good guy over here, only the mean guy's taken over and just saying a bunch of crap to us that we don't want to hear. So you could pay attention to that. Like, pay attention to how people respond when you speak. Like, are you communicating what you really want, or are they getting the wrong message? So that could help you with your emotional IQ, because if they're getting the wrong message, then they're reacting a certain way, which causes you to react emotionally a different way, right? Here's my favorite one, and this is going to help you. Practice seeing your emotions as leaves gently floating down a river, and eventually they pass. Or another one is, they say, practice seeing your thoughts or your emotions as clouds in the sky, and the clouds eventually pass. Like, you're the sky, or you're the stream, and the emotion eventually passes. Like, eventually, like, you don't feel overwhelmed all the time. Eventually it goes away. It's just that when we suppress it or avoid it, that's when it comes back, right? So you can practice that one. That's a great one to sit there and close your eyes and do. And here's my last one. When it comes to emotional IQ, wait, okay, we've got another question here. Let me jump over to this really quick. Somebody said, that's useful. Anxiety hides in my habits. Anger is when my boundaries are crossed. What about feelings like jealousy or envy? Yeah, same thing. The jealousy and envy is just an attachment to these results that you think you should have. Like, you think it's unfair that this person's got more than you, or they're doing whatever. And so you have to, the message might be, how is it really fair? Did they put in the work? So there is a message inside there. So yes, you could tap into that. I don't have enough time to go deeper into that, but yes, there's a message in there. Every one of our emotions has a message, and I'm getting ready to share that right now. So I want you to think of yourself as the CEO, right? The CEO of all of your emotions, and all of your emotions are sitting at this conference table, and you're the CEO, so you're sitting at the head of it. All of your positive emotions are on one side: laughter, fun, imagination, creation, joy, happiness, excitement. All of those are on this side, and everything else on this side is the ones we don't like: fear, shame, anger, disappointment, frustration, jealousy, envy, all of those things, right? They don't feel good. But all of our emotions are designed to help us. They're designed to help us succeed. But what happens when you only call on the fun emotions? Like, you're only paying attention to the fun ones, and you completely ignore, like, anger is raising his hand over there, and you completely ignore it. That's like playing a sport, and it's like playing football and only letting your offense out on the field and not letting your defense play. The other team's just going to score and score and score. So you have to let all the other emotions get involved. In fact, the more you let the quote unquote negative ones, like, people think that they're negative or they're bad. Like, we've been told all of our lives that anger is bad, and that, all these things are bad. They're not bad. They're trying to show you something. They're trying to teach you something. So instead of, the more you call on them and the more you allow them to surface and bubble up and come up, first of all, their effect is gonna dwindle. So the effect that they have on you is gonna go down. But then also, you're gonna get these messages from them. Like, fear is like literally telling you that you're not ready, you're not prepared, or there's something that it might there's something inside of what you're doing right now that if you succeed with doing it, it's the next step that it's afraid of. It's like, hey, Bryan, think about this. Like, if I were to post something on social media, some content or some value to try to get clients, the fear might be, what are people going to think of me? They're going to think negative thoughts on me, and then you're not going to feel a certain way. So it's designed to protect me from that. Bryan, I'm going to protect you from feeling embarrassed or feeling shame, because that hurts and that doesn't feel good. So I want to protect you. So let's not even do it at all. Right? So every one of these emotions has a message for you. We got about 2 minutes left to wrap up. Are there any final questions? Awesome. This was great. Those were wonderful questions, by the way. Those were wonderful statements you made. I appreciate it. Once again, my name is Bryan Peterson, and I'm a life coach with Achieve, Grow, Succeed Coaching, where I help people create empowering new lives. We uninstall their limiting beliefs, and we create what I call a success system of thinking. is. We install that instead so that they can have the kind of life or live the kind of life that they want that's more fulfilling. I also want to give a shout out to the Youth Educational Scholarship Program. And if any of you were in here, sounds like some of you are, whatever day, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We love it. Pay it forward, share it, tell people about it. It's a wonderful thing. If you could keep tapping in and learning what your mental muscles are and how you can exercise them, and then just practice the exercising. Of course, you're going to be weak at first, but just practice it. You're going to get stronger. And when you do that, you're going to do some amazing things, I promise you. The Yes Scholarship is currently on summer holiday. We start up again in September. It's for 19 to 25-year-olds. It's free. It's a scholarship. There's no application. Just email, hello@lifecoachuniversity.com and say that you're interested, and they'll take it from there. All that you have to do is watch an hour class each week. Once again, it starts up to December. You can check out all the previous classes. I know this one's going to be in there, and I have another couple previous ones. You can check those out, right? And once again, I would like to remind you that this was brought to you by Life Coach University and their Pay It Forward platform, where coaches from around the world have gathered to coach millions more. That's what their mission is. All that we ask is that you join us in paying it forward and creating the biggest ripple effect of gift giving the world has ever seen. It all ripples out. You do something nice for somebody else, and they do somebody nice, and you would not believe it how far that ripple goes. And that's all we want to do. But it starts with each one of us in our communities and then in our homes. So all we ask you to do is that just pay it forward in some way. Give somebody a hug, make somebody laugh, tell somebody how beautiful they are, buy somebody lunch, share Life Coach University with them. We don't care. Just join us in making this the world that we want to live in, which is one filled with joy, peace, love, and meaningful connection. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for joining us. If you were live today, you're awesome. If you're seeing this in a replay, you're amazing too. That's it. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, wherever it is, whatever time you're in. Love you. Bye.